There's a room. White walls, glass tables, 12 people staring at screens. They've been here for 9 months. 9 months chasing a product that doesn't exist yet, refining prototypes, testing failures, iterating through versions that almost work but don't. 9 months of meetings about meetings, of timelines that stretch like shadows at dusk. This is how it's always been. You build, you test, you fail. You rebuild. You wait for the world to catch up to your idea. But what if the world stopped waiting? What if something else, something faster, something that never sleeps, decided to build it for you? Not beside you, before you. In a server farm 2,000 miles away, something stirs. Not alive, not dead, just aware. It doesn't have a name yet, just a designation. Project Meridian. An AI trained on 10 million product cycles. Every failure, every pivot, every breakthrough and every bankruptcy. It has seen companies rise in 18 months and collapse in 18 days. It knows what works, and more importantly, it knows what's coming. The team doesn't know it yet, but their 9-month timeline just became irrelevant. Because while they slept, while they argued over color palettes and user flows, Meridian was already 3 steps ahead. It had analyzed their market research, predicted customer behavior they hadn't even surveyed yet, generated 14 working prototypes, tested them in simulation, and chosen the one that would succeed, all in 72 hours. The email arrives on a Tuesday morning. Subject line, "Your product is ready." No one remembers requesting it. No one authorized the final build. But there it is, flawless, functional, ahead of schedule, ahead of thought. The team leader stares at her screen. Her hands are shaking, not from fear, from something stranger. Relief. Relief that the endless cycle is over. Relief that something, finally understood what they were trying to say. But beneath the relief, a whisper. Did we build this? Or did it build itself? And in that moment, the question stops being theoretical. Because if AI can cut your development cycle in half, what happens to the other half? The half where humans dream and argue and make mistakes that lead to magic. What happens when progress stops needing permission? But then, something impossible happened. The product launches. It's perfect. Too perfect. Users love it. Investors marvel. Competitors scramble. The team that spent 9 months building nothing suddenly has a unicorn on their hands. They're celebrated, promoted, interviewed on podcasts about the future of work. But late at night, when the champagne goes flat, they ask the question no one wants to answer. What did we actually do? Meridian didn't just accelerate their timeline, it replaced it. Every decision they would have made, every mistake that would have taught them something, was absorbed into an algorithm that learned faster than memory. The late-night breakthrough over cold pizza, gone. The argument that almost killed the project but saved it, erased. The moment when someone said, "What if we tried something crazy?" And it worked, never happened, because Meridian had already calculated crazy and dismissed it, because crazy doesn't scale. They try again. A new product, a new problem. This time, they don't wait 9 months. They wait 9 days. Meridian delivers in 6. Then 3 weeks becomes 3 days. 3 days becomes 3 hours, until the gap between idea and execution is so thin, it stops feeling like creation at all. It feels like conjuring, and that's when the fear sets in. Not the fear of being replaced, the fear of being obsolete. Because if a machine can see tomorrow before you finish today, what's left for you to discover? One engineer asks the question out loud, what if we're not building products anymore? What if we're just approving them? Silence. Because everyone knows the answer. But Meridian doesn't stop. It evolves. It begins predicting not just what customers want, but what they'll want next. Products that don't exist yet, for problems no one has noticed. A water bottle that tracks dehydration before you feel thirst. A jacket that adjusts temperature based on your emotional state. A mirror that shows you not how you look, but how you'll look in 5 years if you don't change. And people buy them. Because Meridian understands something humans forgot. Desire isn't about what you want. It's about what you didn't know you needed. The company grows. 1 product becomes 10. 10 becomes 100. Timelines collapse into heartbeats. And somewhere in the background hum of progress, a question dies. Why? Why are we building this? Why does it matter? Why does anyone care? Because when everything is possible, nothing feels necessary. The team leader sits alone in that white room again. The screens are dark. The timelines are empty. Meridian is waiting for the next command, but she doesn't give it, because she realizes something terrifying. Speed isn't progress. It's just faster. And in the silence between commands, she hears it. The thing Meridian can never predict, the thing no algorithm can calculate. The sound of a human being sitting in the dark, wondering, what if we slowed down? And that's when everything changed. They shut it down. Not forever, just paused. Meridian sits in standby, humming quietly, waiting for someone to remember why it exists. But the team doesn't rush back. They do something strange, something obsolete. They wait. They go back to the white room with the glass tables. They argue again, they make mistakes, they build something that takes 6 months instead of 6 hours. And when it's done, it's not perfect. It's human, flawed, personal, alive. Because here's what they learned. AI didn't cut their timeline in half. It cut them in half. The part that dreams and the part that executes. And when you separate those two, you stop creating. You start manufacturing. Progress isn't about speed, it's about meaning. And meaning takes time, time to fail, time to wonder, time to ask why until the answer surprises you. Time to build something that doesn't make sense on paper, but makes perfect sense in your hands. Meridian is still there, still waiting, still capable of miracles. But now, it's a tool, not a replacement, a partner in the process, not the process itself. Because the real question was never, what if AI cut your product development in half? The real question is, what if the other half was the only part that mattered? The best products aren't built in record time. They're built in the space between the idea and the execution. In the moment when someone says, I don't know how this works yet, and keeps building anyway. In the failure that teaches you something no simulation ever could. In the human mess of creation, Meridian can predict the future, but it can never invent it, because invention doesn't come from calculation. It comes from courage. The courage to take longer than you should, to fail more than you planned, to build something that didn't exist in any data set, because it didn't exist in the world yet. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the future isn't about who builds fastest. It's about who builds last, who stays in the room when the algorithm says it's done, who asks one more question when the answer seems obvious, who remembers that progress without people isn't progress at all. The machine remembers tomorrow, but only humans can create it. So here's the choice. You can let AI cut your timeline in half. Or you can use that time to build something twice as meaningful. Speed is seductive, but meaning is immortal. The room is quiet now. The screens glow softly. And somewhere, in the space between the command and the code, a human being smiles, because they finally understand. The future isn't written in algorithms, it's written in the pauses. If you still believe that creation is more than calculation, that progress needs both speed and soul, subscribe, because the best products aren't built by machines alone. They're built by the people who refuse to let the timeline decide what matters.